at that time, when I was a kid, it was known as Swamp Poodle Town. West Norwood was. And everybody was poor. We were all poor. I don't think any of us had much money. We did anything you could do to work and get yourself going. And we have been very fortunate in some of the things we've done with the family, with my sons and my grandsons. And we've had a wonderful life. We've met a lot of good people. You know, you establish your life, you meet people. And you meet a lot of people that I was very fortunate that I met a lot of good ones. Carl Lindner and guys like Joe Dillon. We all got involved in business together many times, and it all worked out very well. We've been very fortunate. We've been involved in the real estate business, the land developing business. We were in the cattle business for a while. We got up to 500 head of Angus at one time. And we've been in the horse business, land developing, subdivisions, apartment building. We're still building apartments. We got 300 under construction right now. And we just finished 100 in Batesville, Indiana. But it's kind of fun to do. And I always kid everybody. They say, why are you still working? And I always tell them, I didn't save my money when I was young, so I could still work. My wife used to say to me, my wife had Alzheimer's for 8 years, and the best thing I ever had happened. I got a little toy Boston Bulldog. And if any of you ever have dogs, a dog is the best thing you could ever have as a family. I was president of Hamilton County SPCA for 30 years, and it's probably the best investment I ever had. My wife used to say to me, do you owe a lot of money? And I said, sure. And she says, God won't let you die if you owe a lot of money. And what are you going to do about it? And I said, I'm going out tomorrow and borrow some more. So we did a lot of things in our life. My wife and I had a wonderful wife. She was behind me in many things. I mean, we did all kinds of things. The one time we built a bowling alley out on Winton Road, which you all know about. Brentwood Bowl, it's been very successful. I sold it to Hub Taft at Taft Broadcasting. And we tried to buy the Reds in '61. We almost had the Bengals in '77. So we've been involved in a lot of things. We got the #1 luxury rental apartment building in Cincinnati. The Highland Towers is a rental luxury building. It's the only one left in Cincinnati that's not a condominium. We're really happy that we did that. So, and I've had my grandchildren here, a couple granddaughters, grandsons, and they're all doing very well. And it's really nice of Kathy to do all this work that she's done to get all of you together. She has really worked hard to do it. I guess she's had about 10 or 15 phone calls, along with Andrea. And it's really a real tribute to the Robinson family. You know, when I bought the Highland Towers and Matt Adams, the newspapers came to me and said, we were hoping somebody had a background on Matt Adams would buy this building. And they said, do you have any history of Matt Adams? And I said, well, my mother and father were both born up here. And I talked about Grandpa Robinson being a singer, and about the Robinson family, and of course, the reporter thought I was telling him things that wasn't true. Well, he went over and checked with the Immaculata Holy Cross Church and found out everything I told him was true. And they had a big article in the Matt Adams News at that time. But anyway, I think back to the Whitskins. I remember Grandma Whitskin. I was about 9, 10 years old. Going out and feeding your horses at night. Taking treats out to the work horses. She loved her horses, by the way. I really all knew that. Did you know that, Andrew?
Yeah.
She loved it. And we, of course, had a lot of horses. At one time, I used to have 60 of them. And my daughter-in-law thinks he has about 8 or 10. And I have a secretary that works for me. She's 89 years old, and she's got 14 racehorses. So we have a big history of horses. But Mrs. Whiskin loved her horses, and used to take treats out to them. And we used to have the renewal out at Whiskin's. We used to have to cut the weeds in the field so we could have a ball game on Sunday afternoon. Any of you remember that?
I am.
You do?
Remember, you gotta tell the story about the bull, Joe.
About the what?
About the bull going to Whiskin's from Norwood.
I went to an auction one time with my dad and a couple other guys, and I bought a bull. My dad did. Got this big. My dad had a big old Packard car. And I said, Pop, how are we going to take her home? And I was about 16 at the time. He said, put him in the back of the car. I said, where are we going to take him up? He said, we're going to take him up to Andy's. Up to Whiskin. Andy and I are going to be partners on this bull. We're going to raise him and get him big or whatever. And we put him in the back of the Packard. His head was out one window and the tail out the other window against the ceiling. It was so cute. But he did mess up the call quite a bit. And I think Andy was shocked when we let the bull out of the car. And some artist drew a picture about this big of the old Packard car and 4 or 5 guys in the car with the bull hanging out. We stopped at a stop sign at Lower Price Hill at a traffic light. And it was the black guy who had too much to drink. And he says, you got a big dog there. Can I pet him? I said, sure. He's reaching over and he said, he's got a big funny tongue, hasn't he? And the bull was licking his hand. And it was so cute, the things that we had with the bull, the things that we did. You know, Andy was a great friend of mine, as well as Tony Overberg. Tony Overberg was really a great uncle. And I was kind of a wild kid of Norwood. I drove a truck, 12, 13 years old without a driver's license. And all the cops in Norwood knew about it. And Tony used to race, came with me. Be sure to stop at stop signs. And he used to drive over to Woodlawn Avenue to Grandma's in a truck. And I think I was about 13. But I played baseball for Lawson Drug Store, and that's where Tony was killed. I played novel baseball. But there's a lot of history that goes back. Tony helped me get the first black kids to play knot-hole baseball in Norwood. There's about 6 black families on Hopkins Avenue, and they wouldn't let them play ball in Norwood. They didn't want any black kids playing baseball. And I was sitting up there waiting for a decision, and Tony came out on a Friday night and asked me why I was out there seeing these sitting out in the lobby waiting for the board of directors of the knot hole to decide on whether black kids could play baseball. It was a cute story. I told Tony what I was waiting for, and he says, wait here. Well, he went in, he came back out. He says, they'll call you in a few minutes. Well, what happened, one of my buddy's father was in a meeting. Tony went in there, and he says, those 2 black kids live on the corner of Hopkins and Webster. They live in Norwood, they deserve to play in Norwood. And so the board of directors at the knot hole was saying, well, they're black. He said, I don't care what they are. He says, this is what I was told. Those boys play ball in Norwood, or you're not going to find your automobile when you get out of here. You're parked at a no parking place. You're parked in no parking, so are you. I'll attach all those cars. And 5 minutes later, they called me and let all the black boys play baseball in Norwood. Tony did a lot of things for me. And, he lived over in Maple Avenue. I think back of all the things. Rick Buddy's daughter. I remember when they're living on Hills Avenue. And all the things we had in West Norwood. But everybody was kind of poor at that time. But we all got along well. And sometimes I think we got along better at that time than we have some of the times we have today. But it's nice of all of you to come out here and have your families out here. You got a good family, and I hope you continue to see each other. And I hope we continue to have Kathy for another long time, and Andrew to do all the work to get all of you to come together.
Yes.
It's a nice bunch of people. Thank you.